Rebecca and welcome to my channel. Have you ever used a bullseye cane to make a petal or a flower cane? Well, I have, and I've always just used it one way around, and then a few days ago I just had the idea of I'm going to alternate the way around that I roll my bullseye canes to create a slight variation on a bullseye flower cane. Now it's just a very subtle change, but it's just a variation on what you've got, so you can change your stash up, you know, just with that little variation. Now these are all in orange and white. This is just the colour I decided to use for these because I've not got any orange in my stash, but you can use any colour that you want. It would just orange and white mixed together, which you'll see when I'm showing you what to do with it. So let's get started and I'll show you how. To start out doing this bullseye flower, I'm just taking two colours. So I'm going with orange. It's a nice vibrant colour. I've not done any orange flower canes within my stash, so I thought I'd just make one in this colour. Now what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to make a skinner blend. Now, not perfect squares or anything like that. I'm just basically going to lay it on top of each other and then just cut corner to corner. Now obviously orange is a brighter colour than what the white is, so I'm wanting to just gradient it down, and I want it to go from a vibrant orange down to a lighter one and possibly a little bit of white at the end. I'm just going to start rolling this out a little bit just to give it a hand going through the pasta machine. Just picking it up, and I'm going to keep running it through my pasta. I'm putting this end through first because it's double layered up already. I don't need to fold it. So that's how long it's made it, and that's just going through on a number one on the pasta machine. And I'm just going to keep folding it like this, and I'm going to put the folded edge into the pasta machine. I'm going to keep doing that over and over until I get a nice skinner blend. So I'm going to go and do that off camera and I'll be back in just a second. So I've got my lovely orange to white blend. I've put a little bit more white on the other side because it had not come fully. I didn't have sort of like this section here with the light colour, which is a big part of the way that I'm going to do this cane. Now, probably thinking I've got a really big amount of clay, but the reason I'm doing it this way is because we're going to have to make two bullseye canes just from this one blend. So see how much that is. That's sort of just about 6 inches in width, really, just short of anyway. So we'll go with about 3 inches. That way we can just adjust it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create two bullseye canes. So I'm just going to fold this onto itself, and I'm going to run it through my pasta machine, and it doesn't matter which end you put it through. See, my pasta machine's decided to squish the orange end, so it's easily put back to where it needs to go. And then that's just on the number one, and then I'm going to go down a few settings till I get a thinner strip. Okay, so I'll go down a couple more. So I've got down to a number 5, I think this is now, on my pasta machine. If that's too thin for you to do, just keep it to a thicker setting. There we go. So I've got a really long ribbon now. So what I'm going to do is, with this one I'm going to start with the white in the centre, and then with the other one I'm going to start with the orange in the centre. So all you've got to do is just roll it up, try and keep as much air out of it as you can. I like to just keep pressing it against my mat. Now this is very thin, so you will get a few sort of like lumps and bumps, but they'll easily roll back out when the clay gets a bit thicker later on. Yeah, so I've got that one done, and I have got a little bit of this that sort of got stuck to itself, so see if I can find it out now, put it back how it should be. Now once it's reduced you're not going to see any of this, so don't worry about it. This is simply because I'd gone so thin when I've reduced it. So like I say, it's up to you whether if you want to work with it this thin. I just wanted to get the nice subtle gradient in the cane. Okay. So roll it out so it evens it up, and then we'll push down. So it doesn't look much at the moment, but I'm going to squeeze air out a bit. So I'm going to do exactly the same with this one, but I'm going to start with the orange in the centre. So I'll go and do that off camera and I'll be back in just a second. I've got my bullseye canes made. Don't look very fancy at the moment, so we just need to get on to the next step. So what we need to do now is we need to reduce it down. And the idea is that one of your colours is going to be on the outside of your petals. I've got a test one that I've done here, and I've got two sections of one of the colours, which are, in this one it was the purple and white. I've got the white ones, I've only got two parts of that cut out, and then the one that's got the purple in the centre, I've got three of them cut out. Sorry, I couldn't see that very well. Try and get, you can see it a little bit better now. So that's the idea. So we're needing to reduce it down so it's into a length that we can divide by 3, and you might end up with just a little bit left over from one of the other colours. Now this is something that I made out from leftovers of a bullseye cane, and that's why I'm doing this video, because it's come to me and I thought, oh, that looks quite good, I'll do a video on it. So you can keep part of one of your canes because you only need 2 sections of it, but you need them to be the same thickness, your sections. So depending on what you want to be your predominant colour is the one I would really say that you're dividing into 3, and the one that's just got the 2 sections obviously not going to stand out as much as what the prominent one was. So I've done the white in the centre on this one, so I think I'll do white as the outside, the white that's in the centre as the outside pieces. So I'm just reducing it down. Now if you've not reduced canes before or you're new to it, I've got a video on how to reduce circular canes, but obviously you can see me doing it here while I'm nattering away. I basically just punch it, not to punch it, I squeeze it from end to end. Where punch came from I have no idea. I must be feeling pretty angry and I'm squishing clay hard today. Can't believe I said punch. So, and as you can see I'm getting some left over at the end, you know, like as a, what we don't want at the end, so I'm just going to cut it off until I've got these ones. So that's not got all that much white on, but that's absolutely fine. If you want there to be more white on, you just put you know, like wrap your cane in another bit of white. So that's, yeah, so that's at 6 inches, so that's divided by 3, and then I'm going to have this one. So we'll, in fact, now because we need these ones to be, so we'll go in, we'll do it up to 9 and we'll reduce this one up to 9 inches as well, and then I'm going to have a little bit left over. So I might actually, because I'm reducing it down a little bit more, I will put a little bit more white on the outside of this one, because this one's going to be the one that's predominant on the outside, so I need to have a bigger section of white on here. So I'll go and do that and I'll reduce this one down and then I'll come back. I've got all my bullseyes reduced down to the same thickness and the same length, so I've got 5 canes all together and they are all 3 inches long, and they're probably about just short of ½ an inch wide. Now it doesn't matter, you know, what size they are, as long as they're just all the 5 pieces need to be the same and in length and thickness, just for it to turn out the way that this one did. So the next part is we're just wanting to flatten them down pushing them against the mat. Now this can make them expand a little bit. Now if you want to stick to the same length of what they were when you've cut them up, then you can easily just push it back. With the bullseye cane they're very forgiving because you can squish them up easily, and it's not going to affect them all that much. So, and then we just wanted to do that with all 5 pieces. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm just doing it as an alternative to just using the colour, you know, like a bullseye cane, but having the colours all the same. So like instead of having 3 orange and on the outside and 2 with the white on the outside, I wanted to alternate it, and I thought when I was doing this one, the test one, I thought I wonder whether if it actually worked, whether if it'd do, you know, it would look okay. And I was surprised, it turned out better than I thought it would do. So I thought I'd quickly just make a video on it. So I'm going back down to 3 inches. So I've got them all done, and by making them go back into the same size, you know that they're all going to be at the same length, so you shouldn't get too much distortion. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to take our orange one on the outside first. We're just going to line up one with it outside, white on the outside, and we're just going to do this all the way along. And then this is the point that if one's just a little bit shorter than the other one, you can just extend it just a little bit, just so that it matches. And then we end up with the orange one on the outside. Okay, so now what we're wanting to do is we need to reduce this down so that we can get this top part into a point. So if you just try laying your cane down to start with and just squeeze at the top, and then every now and again just stretch out the bottom, and you want to keep these lines as straight as you can because we're just wanting to pull together the top part of these bullseyes. And just put it on its side and pushing it down that way, so that way I'm getting pressure on both of the sides. But every now and again you just need to take hold of the centre part and just give that a stretch, because the outside of a cane reduces more than what the inside does. So as you can see, it's sort of like started I can't think of the word, expanding out the wrong way, and you've just got to pull it out, because it's like you can see that it was sort of like going indented that way like this. So you've just got to pull it out just to make sure that it stays at the same length, so you don't get too much you know, like scraps at the end of your cane, which there's nothing wrong with scraps. It's just if you're wanting to reduce the amount of cane ends that you've got to deal with afterwards, then it's just a way of doing that, just making sure that it's, you know, even all along rather than just the outsides of the cane extending. Okay, so as you can see, I'm getting closer and closer. So I'm just about there. Just keep putting it on its sides, and then that will just give you more even pressure on the outside of it. So, and then I've got it to the top. And as you can see, I've got my lines going along. Now what I want to do is I just want to go and get some clay to give this a quick wrapping before I do any more reducing. So I'm just going to go and get some clay and I'll be straight back. So I've took some more of the tangerine orange that I've used for the main of the cane, and I've just added a little bit of red to it just so that it's got that little bit of darkness compared to the original colour, and this is just so that we can see the outlines of each of the petals. that's basically why I'm putting it around there. You don't have to if you don't want to, but this is just how I like to do it. So I've got that rolled out on my number one on my pasta machine, and I'm doing it now before it gets any smaller. Reason being is because, like I said earlier, the outside clay reduces less than what more than what the outside clay does. So you still want your clay to be relatively thick when it gets to this stage before you reduce it anymore, because it's only going to be a thin line once it's reduced down. So I'm just going round. Now it's up to you whether if you want to put another stripe down here, just sort of like as a registration, so you know that that's the point that's going to go into the centre, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can just keep an eye, you know, look at the end of your cane, and that should be good enough. And just take glaze, fill it in. Then obviously as we reduce it down, we'll be cutting off the bits at the end that we don't want. So as you can see, it's cracking and things here. That's absolutely fine, because I'm going to be it's going to be getting more conditioned as I reduce it down. Take little bits off. Because what I'm going to do with these is, with all the offcuts, I'm just going to sort of blend them all together and see what colour orange I get from that, rather than me just having to make lentil beads or you know, other things, Natasha beads, things like that. I'm just going to see what colour I end up with what's left over. So I'm just pinch it down again. Now what I wanted to do is, I'm wanting to create 6 sections. This is so that I can have a cane that is just the petal, and then I want to create a 5-petaled flower. So I want it to stay relatively big for the petal cane, and this is so that I've got room to reduce it down when I'm coming to use it. Because sometimes you just want to make canes and you know, you've not actually got any plans for it. And if you watch my videos, I make a lot of canes, and I really ought to get into using them up and things like that, but I just love seeing how the colours blend together and what they create and what different things you can do with them. I just find it fascinating, you know, just from squishing clay and putting it in different sequences, you know, what you can get from it. So I just keep reducing it by flipping it round and then squeezing it evenly all the way down. I'm pushing against the glass mat, so that helps as well. It keeps the sides in that nice triangle formation that we want. So I'm probably down at the size that I want to keep it just for reducing later on, because I like to wrap them in gold or silver leaf. This one will be gold because it's an orange, so it's a warmer colour. Or you could use coloured leaf if you've got coloured leaf. I've not got any of that, so the other one I've got is copper, so that might be an option to go for if you've got the copper one as well. So I've got that down. It's just under an inch, you know, height the triangles. So I'm just going to trim this off, and so we can see the effect. So as you can see here, this is why we've got the darker orange. Let's just lift the light a bit. It's just so when the petals go together, we know where we're going to be able to define the petals individually when we're cutting it out. So I think I'll cut, let's do a, yeah, I think I'll do a 2.5 inch off cut, and then that'll be for my petal. And then when I reduce it down, it'll be even smaller than this, but don't want to reduce it down too much and then put it in storage, and then when I come to using it, I've not got much room to waken it up again. So I'm just going to carry on squishing this down because it's going to boring as heck just seeing me do it, but I'm going to reduce it down into a number that can be divided by 5. So it's about 5 inches now, so I'm probably going to reduce it down into up to 10 inches, and then I'll come back and we can do that. I've got it reduced down into sections of 2 inches, so this will be the bit that goes into the centre, and I've just got 5 of those. So it's still going to look like a rather large skein when it's done, but like I said, when you're reducing it down, you know, it's going to get more detailed in it, and you're not going to see too much of that darker orange. It's just some way for you to be able to define petals, which is pretty much what it's for. So I thought for the centre I'm going to use these leftover bits from the cane earlier when I was adding the white to the outside, and this is how I do all the centres of my flowers pretty much. Well, it's a standard one that I use for making my centres. And I'm going to roll them out so that they're all the same length. Now, don't worry about if the different thicknesses or anything like that, because we're going to reduce it down a few times and just redo this. So, alright, so what's that? So I've got that to 3 inches, so let's just, I'm going to chop this into 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to put them together again. If it bothers you, you know, if some are bigger than the others, then just reduce them down so they're different. Now I'm just going to squeeze them back into a circle again. And it doesn't matter if this bit twists or anything like that, because when you're slicing your cane, you're not really going to notice whether if it's you know, moves slightly in the centre or whatever. It's not something that you really have to worry about. Now I'm going to have to just cut these off so we've got an idea of what's going on. So I've just got those little bits, and then I'm just going to reduce these down a couple of times and either cut it into 2 or 3. Could probably reduce it down quite thin and then just cut it into more pieces, and then, you know, you haven't got as much, you know, takes of reducing and chopping up and putting it together. You can just reduce it, you know, once, twice, and then cut it into smaller sections. Now, because it's not that much of a detailed cane, it doesn't matter that you're really rolling it around on here, because it's just going to be going in the centre and you're hardly going to see much of it anyway, so do it in 4s, make it easier. I think I might just do that one more time. Now, because this has got the white on the outside already, we don't really need to put anything around it, because it's a different colour to what the outside of what the petals are. If you want to put another colour around it, feel free, but with this one I don't need to. So I'm not going to need all of this to make the centre of the cane, so I might use the rest of it on something else. So I might decide to put a colour around it. Quite a lot of sections going on there, so that's 6 inches, so I'll just do that one into 3. There we go. And then just squish it back into a circle. We've got our centre. Now obviously we don't need it this big, so I'm going to chop off. As you can see, we've got that little bit of white going on. I could put some more white around the outside of it, because obviously the more that you reduce it, the less the white's going to be seen. So again, that is up to you. So I'm just going to take a 1 inch section off for it, and then I'm going to reduce it down to the 2 inches that I've done the canes. Yeah, the petals, should I say. Let's see if that's small enough. I might need it even smaller. Yeah, I'm going to have to go a little bit smaller on that one. So it's a good way of just taking off a small section of it so you don't end up wasting your cane. You know, we're just reducing the entire thing. So I'll chop that one down into 2 inches, and I think it might just be, you just see it into relationship to the actual petals. Now I'm going to put a little bit of white around this, simply because a lot of the white is reduced, and it's just going to be a very, very thin piece that I put around. Again, any of these off bits of white that I've been cutting off, I'm just putting into my little scrap pile, and I'll be using them to just make another shade of the orange. Just roll it up. Yep. So it's got that more defined white on the outside. Okay. It's got a bit longer than 2 inches now. So just take your time and just decide what the look is that you're wanting. If you don't want to centre and you just want to put the 5 pieces together, you can do. Sorry, just adjusting my chair. Now you want to take your petal canes that you've cut up. Now we're not wanting it to be this total sharp point. Reason being is because you're not going to be able to fit this into the centre with sharp points. So just press down. Make sure you've got them going the right way to start with, which we have, and we've got the knocking it off, bullseyes going in that direction, and they all come to a point here. Should have mentioned that before I started pressing. And double check, because I've done it before when I've done things like this, and I've gone and got the petal going the wrong way, and I've gone and flattened the side rather than the point, and I've had to sort of try and reshape it as best I could. So this is when the registration mark can come in, just to make sure you know you're pushing down the right space. Okay, so we've got it rounded off now. I'm just going to take our petals, turn that down just a little bit more. See, there's no fast and easy rule of it, just depending on what size your cane is. So I can tell you the measurements, what I'm doing, but you just need to work it down for what you've made, because you might be working with a lot bigger cane than what I'm doing, or you might be doing a smaller one. So I can only give you so much detail in your life for what I'm doing, so for you to be able to decide what's best for you. So put the cane in, make sure it's lined all the way up at the other end, and then we're just going to roughly put these around. We'll be double checking that they're all lined up in just a second. It's just easier on the pushing them together part if they're all touching the centre bit to start with. It's easier to pick them up and move them around as well if you've got more to grab hold of. And the last one. Okay, as you can see, they're not touching now. So I'll just flip it over, make sure that they're all straight and they're not leaning in an opposite way. I mean, if it doesn't bother you, you can leave it, because nothing's totally symmetrical, I don't think, nature. It may be, and I just don't know about it. But this is just what I'm doing for here. Right, so I've got that all out, and then we're just going to push our pieces in. You can see a tiny little bit of an air pocket there. I like to just keep flipping it just so that it gets roughly the same pressure going all the way around. You can also just pinch the little gaps together and help the outside of the petal to expand just that little bit so that it can be touching sooner rather than you having to just keep squishing it. And there we go. So as you can see, this one's sort of just come out of sync at the end, so I'm just going to readjust it. Okay. And then now I'm just going to turn it into a full circle. Now it's in this state, I wouldn't do too much rolling on the mat, simply because you don't want to distort it too much. Now this is the point where you could get more distortion that you don't want, whereas when we were just doing the centre part, you're not going to see that much of it when it's sliced up. So that's it. All I do every now and again, I do it that way just to get rid of the lumps and bumps from using my fingers, because as you can see it can go a little bit lumpy bumpy when you're doing it this way, and plus I like to turn it as I'm doing it, and then every now and again just give that sort of a roll on it. Okay, so I'm just going to go and get some gold leaf now and put this on the outside. I just sort of thought I'd best show you where I'm putting my gold leaf on. I didn't hit record when I was doing the flower part of it, because not everybody that sees this might not know about gold leaf and things like that. So it's just basically in these really thin sheets, and I use this because one, it adds sparkle to it, but two, it's a good way to store your canes, because obviously when it's not got anything around it, and if you keep your canes in a box or a basket like I do, they can quite easily stick together, and then you get colour transference from one cane to another one, and obviously you don't want that. And this just helps them to not stick together, but adds, like I said, that little bit of sparkle. And if you've got different coloured leaf, you can put whatever you want on. So say if you didn't want it to stand out as much as this, if you've got some orange of this, because you can get loads of different colours, then you could do that, and then you're not going to see it so much. It's just a good way of using it to store your canes. Now those are my little bits that I'll save up, because it's so precious, you don't want to waste any of that either. So put this back. I always put it back in here because I've got a bad habit of not putting it in and then it goes flying, and then I'm going to try and pick it up without it sticking to everything. So this is our canes done. So obviously I've got little bits of clay on the end, so I'm going to trim them off so you can have a good view of the cane now it's finished. I'll leave it just on that end, so and the petal. Now if you're just putting them into storage and you're not doing videos like what I'm doing, you don't need to cut the ends off until you've reduced it even more, but I always like to see how it's turned out. So as you can just about see, I think it's slightly darker in between these petals once they're put together, and that's just so we know where we can define them when reducing it down. So let's just take down just a little bit. I'll do a marguerite bead, and then because I like those for the clasps on necklaces and bracelets and things, so just reduce it a little bit because it's a bit larger than I'd like. Okay, and again, don't roll it too much once it's all put together. Okay, so I'm just going to cut it at 5mm. This is a Marks-It tool that I found out how to make it from Susan on Turtle Soup Beads, so if you want to know how to do it, head across to her YouTube and you'll be able to find out. So I'm just going to just cut one, so I'm just pressing there, so as you can see it's just giving me some little ridges. There we go. I've got gold leaf all over me. See, it's a good thing with the bits that you've cut off, you can just pick it up with that. And then I'm just going to take my needle tool. I'm just going to press down towards the centre. And flip it over. Now obviously if it bothers you that you've got the gold leaf on, obviously clean your hands before you start doing it. It don't bother me out, I like the glitter on it, it's just added sparkle. So I've got both sides defined. Now as much as you want to do, you can also just push them in from the sides there, so you've got more of that curvature like you get in a flower. And then to make a marguerite bead, I'm just going to use it with my, so you can just use a ball tool that might hot, just something that's rounded, just to make it into a little cup. Now the other thing you could do, if you get a smaller one, you can push into the centre of each petal. And it just gives it added dimension to it. Or you could press the outsides to thin them out as well. Okay. And then all you want to do is just use your needle tool just to skewer through the centre. Then you've got a flower. So you can use that in bead embroidery, or you could use it as a clasp, or just a bead on its own within a piece. So I think now what I'm going to do is, rather than just showing you how to make a cane, I'm going to see what I can actually get out of these two canes. Now obviously I've got my marguerite bead there, and this flower cane is about 4 inches long and an inch in diameter, and the petal cane is probably about 3/4 of an inch on either side. So we shall see what we can get out of them. So I'm going to clear all my gold leaf and get it off my hands so that I can show you how to make some beads. So I'm starting off with the actual flower cane, and I've reduced it some more, but before I reduced it I just cut off some more slices which I'm going to turn into marguerite beads, the same as this one, but then I've just reduced it down probably to about 1/2 inch now. And what I'm going to do to start with is just make some simple flower beads. Now I'm just taking my Marks-It tool again, and I'm just going to cut maybe 10 and 15 of these, because then the rest I'm going to use on something else. So as you can see, I've got the little marks, and that's each 5mm interval, so it gives you a good indication where to cut. So. So these ones I'm just going to make into marguerites the same way as that I've already shown you. And whoop, how many have I done there now? I've one stuck to my hand. 8, 9, 10, there we go. Now you do as many as you want, I'm just wanting to show you the different ways of using the cane. So take one of your slices, and if it's just got flattened a little bit with you cutting it, then you just want to round it off a little bit more. And just take a needle tool. I'm doing the same with the marguerite. We're just going to define each of the petals. Now you could do some larger ones of these, or you could go even smaller. It's up to you what you're going to be using them for. So I just like to have a variety. So I've got different options. Okay, so once I've let this rest a little bit, because I've been reducing it, it's quite soft, so I'm not going to be skewering it just yet. So you could either go twice, you could do 2 across like this, you could just do 1 going straight across like this, which is probably what I will do. You know, I'll probably just go through one side and come out of the centre of one of the petals. So that's what I'll do with those. So I'm going to go off and see to these marguerites and these flower beads, and then I'll come back and show you. So the next one I'm going to show you is just some little ball beads. Now the ones that I'd already cut out and shown you what to do, I've decided to leave these at this size, and these are all just going to be regular flower beads because I wanted them to be a little bit smaller for my marguerites for clay embroidered pieces. So I've reduced it even more, so I will make some of those as well, but I just wanted to show you how to do these ones. So this is just some scrap clay that I've got rolled out on my thickest setting of my plastic machine. Now I've just got some little circle cutters. Now depending on how big you want your beads to be is what size cutter you use. Now because we're going to be covering this clay, you have to think about that the slices are obviously going to make the bead larger, but again it all depends on how thick you cut your slices. Now because this looks pretty tiny at the moment, but once you've got the slices on it could be a lot bigger than you were expecting. So I'm just going to show you the other size that I've got out on my desk, just because the rest of the sets somewhere else in my studio that probably needs putting away. So I'm just going to do one of each, and then you can see just the difference in the sizing going between them. So rolling off now. So you can see this one's significantly bigger than the other one. So depending on how big you want your beads to be, obviously it depends on how much you put in the centre. So I'm just going to take some, in a little bit, just some thin slices. Now it doesn't matter if these aren't full slices, they can be you know, just partial slices, so don't worry about it if you don't get them all complete, because the idea is that we're just going to be covering them. So because these are relatively small beads, you're not going to need that many slices. But like I said, depending on how thick you cut your slices will depend on how big they are. So any handmade bead is not going to have the same regularity to it and sizing wise, so you just need to take that into consideration when using your handmade beads when you're doing a project. So each bead's probably just going to be slightly different to the next one. So I'm just taking these slices and I'm just covering up that scrap clay. So I've got it all covered like that, and you can just see those little bits of gold flake, and then I'm just rolling it on the table. Do it this way so that it doesn't twist the layers of the cane, but it smooths it out as you want it to be. So there we go. So that's the first one, and then the teeny tiny one. So this is obviously not going to take as many slices as the larger one. So you see, I've got quite a lot of this cane left, but I do want to leave myself some of this to go in my mini, you know, the stubs canes that I have left over at the end, just for when I'm decorating things. So I'm not going to use the entirety of it, because I like to be able to incorporate different colours. So let's see whether if this will do enough with it being as small as it is. Just make sure that you cover up any of the scrap clay. I think that should just about it. So and then if there's a little bit that's hanging over another one, you can just reposition it. Just get a tiny little bit off of this one. So again, it's not a full slice, and then just put it over where I want covering. Do the same, rolling it out. There we go. So I've got two different size beads there. So I'm going to do a selection of both of these so I can use them in conjunction with my other flowers. And to do the marguerites, it's just the same as the larger ones, but I'm not cutting them to 5mm like I've been doing with this, because when I want to put them in my clay embroidery I want them thinner. So I just wanted to show you how thick I will cut them. So it's probably about 2 or 3mm, something like that. It's not very thick at all. So, and then I'll just do the same thing. You can actually, I probably should have done before I slice it off. In fact, I'll do one on here, probably easier to show you, and just push in with your needle tool. There we go. And then just slice it off at the thickness that you want. Okay. And then do what we've done with the other marguerites, just make a well, either with a knuckle or a ball tool, just something like that. Find the ball tool back out. So it's something that's just round that will give that cup effect, and then pierce the centre. So I'm going to create some more of these, both of these sizes of the ball beads, and some more of these little marguerites ready for my clay bead embroidery pieces. So that'll be all that I'm going to do with this one, because I'm probably going to save myself probably a 2-inch piece of this and use the rest up for making beads, and then I'll move on to show you what I'm going to do with the petal. Right, so I've reduced this down now to the size that I want it to be. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch on either side, and I'm just going to take my marks it tool again, and I'm just going to cut out a few of these, and I'll probably use these on fringe. I could use them on their own as well, but that's just mainly the thing that I'd use them for. So again, it's just a case of cutting them out. So that's a bead, and then I will skewer it from the point up to the middle of this edge here. Now, because they are very, very soft, they're distorting a little bit because I've reduced it, so I will cut these out and then leave them to settle a little bit so I can skewer them afterwards, because I don't want to be distorting them too much. And then I'll probably do some of the ones like we've done for the marguerites, but I'll put holes in different places just so I can use them in my bead embroidery. And I think that's about it what I'm going to show you to do with these canes. So I'm going to go off and get these made, and then I'll come back and show you everything. So the last thing I'm going to show you actually is how to make lentil beads. Now this is just the bits of the cane ends when I've been reducing it, and I've just squished them up into a ball. So I've got that. So you've got bits of the colour of the canes coming through, and then you've got some of the gold leaf as well. Just want to take your acrylic block and just press down onto the glass or work mat, whatever you're working on, and just go in a circular motion. I like to tilt my block as I'm doing it, and then as you can see it starts going into sort of a lentil shape. Now it can go into more of an oval, so when that happens I tend to just slow down a little bit and then manipulate it back into the round that I'm wanting it. So it's going a little bit oval now, so I'll just push it in a little and go in there. Now I've lost the point in the middle, so I'm just going to round it back up. Now once you've made a few thousand of these, you'll be able to do it without looking. I've not made any in a while, so my hand is out of practice, but when you've been doing that many, honestly you can do it without even looking at it. You sort of get to know the pressure and just keep going until you've got it round. I remember when I was first learning how to do them years ago, I can't remember how long it is now that I've actually been doing clay. Now it's definitely since before COVID. And I remember trying to do them the first time and I was getting so mad, going, I'm like, why won't it do it? So you know, we've all been there when we're trying to learn how to do these. So as I can see now that it's starting to get a spiral going around the centre. So I'll slow down, and I like to sort of just rotate my block just so it gets it back into a nice tight swirl in the centre. And then I straighten up my block and press down within the centre. Okay, and press it down a little bit more. And then you've got your lentil. If you're not happy with how it turns out, just screw it back up and just have another go at rotating it. So I'm going to decorate these with some little cane ends, if I can find my little box. Oh, there it is. So this is what I keep all my little ends for, is just decorating things like this. It's just to make it more of a focal bead, so you can make smaller ones and just use them, you know, on their own, or you can just do like I'm doing now, just make more of a focal bead from it, and you can, you know, string your other beads from it. So just, I might actually, what I'm going to do is I'll put like that side. So I'm going to flatten this down to the back, so you can either leave it so it's, you know, like that sort of blunt cone shape, but I'm pressing it down so it's flat on the back. Because if I'm using it either in bead embroidery or I'm putting a bezel around it, it's easier if it's got a completely flat back, because it'll go against, it'll either lay flat against the body or it'll go flat against the felt or whatever it is that you're going to be putting it onto. So then I can lift it up a little bit easier. So that's just how I've got it, so you can see from the side it's domed. And then I've just got a green leaf on here, and I'll squidge it down a little bit more. Yeah. And make it a bit thinner as well. And so I'm going to take some thin slices, and then that one just didn't come off quite right. I'm not wand it up enough. This is what I mean about reducing your canes. When it's getting to this size, you've not got much room for waking them back up, so the only way to do it is just squish them a little bit more. But this is why I tend to leave most of my canes big until I'm actually using them, because, you know, you need to have room for you to be able to wake it back up. Let's try this again. That's better. And when I'm cutting a leaf cane like this, I like to just flip it onto the opposite side whenever I do, and then when it gets a bit too pointed at this end and I want to round out the bottom side of it, I cut from the point. So it sort of like gives you back that rounded at the bottom, you know, like the rounded edge at the bottom. So I think all I'm going to do is put these along the outside edge, overlapping, and just put the next one over the end of the one I've just put down. You can decorate these pretty much however you want to, really. It just depends on how far you want to go with it. And then when you've put them on, either all at the end or individually, just push down in the centre, and that sort of just sort of blends it in with lentil bead. So that's what I'm going to do all the way around. Right, so I've got to put in the last one on, so let's cut that one. Now because we've been tucking the first one over the tip of the last one, this one that we're going to put on, we need to tuck it underneath the rounded part of the leaf. So I'm just lifting it up and then popping it into place. And pushing that one back down over the end, so it's going on like the rest of the bead, and then I'll probably just go around like this, and I'm just pressing into the leaves just to make sure that they're stuck to the lentil bead, and it goes back to that sort of nice rounded shape. It's not got too much lumpy and bumpy bits going off around it. If you don't mind the bumpiness of it, then feel free to leave it. This is just what I like to do. And then when I'm skewering these, I'll either put 2 in, so I'll go, oh sorry, come off, go straight across from here to here, or you can go straight through the centre, but that can make it flip, or you can go straight from the front to the back and then just bead it through that way. So I've just got to go and get everything baked, and I'll come back and show you everything. I want to show you another way to make a focal bead, pretty much out the same thing. So it's the same sort of technique as what we've done with covering the smaller beads. We're just going to make it bigger, and we're going to insert a rhinestone. Now for it to obviously be big enough for this to go around it, we need a bit more clay than what we do. So I'm just getting this, and just see how roughly the size and what we've got. This just needs waking in, so it's a little bit uncooperative. Right, so I'm making a large ball of it. Now these rhinestones are ones that have got like sort of bezels that are made around them for you to sew in. I'm just wanting the big rhinestone out of the centre, so what I do is I just take my needle tool and I just push back these little prongs that are holding it in, and then I'll use these tiny rhinestones for something else. I just take them out of the setting, but when I want a larger rhinestone, I just take out one of these ones, and then when it comes out, that's what it looks like. So, and then you've just got a load of little rhinestones that you can use on something else. So now I'm going to take the flower cane, or you could use a petal one as well, it's up to you, and just do what we did with the small ball beads. So you can apply this sort of shaping I'm going to show you to do smaller beads as well. You can, from just that regular ball bead, you can manipulate it into so many other shapes. I know I did a video on lentils. I've just remembered that I actually did the lentils video, and I show you how to make different shapes from one lentil bead. Now if you want to watch that, I'll put that in the description box below. I think there's either 7 or 9 different ways to use your lentil bead to make different ones, and I'll just show you how to change its shape really. So this one obviously takes more slices than what the other ones did, but this is why we have to think about, you know, like the size of the rhinestone and the piece of scrap clay that we're putting underneath. This circle cutter is probably about 1 1/4 inches, going by what it says on my mat anyway, so it's a decent size. But it don't have to be a second one that you cut it with, it's just something just to measure out a specific amount of clay, depending on if you're making more than one of them. But like I said, with handmade beads, that you've always got that slight discrepancy between it being a uniformed size, like what some of the glass beads that you can get and things like that. Just give it a quick roll just to start it off, and then do the same as what we did before. Now this is not going to be a ball bead like we've done with the other one. So I'm going to be flattening it out just a little. But then I'm going to try and sort of mould it into a bit of a teardrop. Because this is going to go in the centre here. So press it down. Then either use, this is a gift card with paper on it. Or you could use the back of your blade. Use that as well. Just anything that's flat that you can sort of mould it into whatever shape it is that you're wanting to do, really. So let's see. So that's probably about the right size for what I'm wanting. So I've got it into that side, and you can see about how thick it is. Probably about a 1/4 of an inch thick, something like that. And then I'm just going to take some Fimo gel and pop a nice blob on the back of it rather than put, you can put it on the back of the rhinestone, but I'm just putting a blob there and it'll squidge out when I press it down. Now I have a lot of technical terms and I use squidge a lot, so I do apologise but if it gets a bit annoying. Right, so I'm just popping it in to where I want it. I'll just use a clay shaper, or you just need something that's smooth to press down. You can use your finger, it's just I usually prefer using the end of a pencil or a pen, something like that. But, use what you were born with, your fingers, so just want to give you different options really, that's all. And I'm just going to take a little bit of tissue. Now the clay that's comes, as I said, squidged from underneath, will make that seal around it. And then just trying to clean it off the rhinestone so it doesn't bake onto it. In fact, if you do get any clay, like liquid clay or anything on your rhinestones, I've just got some rubbing alcohol, and you can wipe off the excess clay with a little bit of this, or you could use baby wipes if you've not got any of that. It's just this tends to get it a lot cleaner quicker. There you go. So that's a rhinestone that's set in, and then I'm just going to put some tiny little balls of clay around the edge, and then I'm just going to make some tiny little, well, if you've seen my other videos you'll have seen me do this. It just holds it into place. So just take your clay and then roll it into a snake. Up some little feathers, so I just take off the end bit and put it on there just so I know I've got a clean cut. Now depending on whether if you want to have gaps between these is up to you. I'll just play it by ear and see how it goes. So I'm just taking it now, that little disc that I've just cut off, rounding it into a ball. And I think I'm going to put these into the little teardrops as well, so I'm just rolling one end like this, and then I've got popped it there right at the top, so it's sort of half on the bead at the back and the rhinestone that's in it. A little bit smaller than the other ones. You'll get a feel when you're doing this, you know, whether if one's smaller than the other, or if you need to take some off to make it the same size, or you just leave them random, it's up to you. And then I've got that there, and then I'm just going to press down. that's all I'm going to do with it. So I'll just lift it up a little bit close for you to see now. So I've basically just done the same as what I've done before with the leaves. I've just put the next one over the end of the previous one, and then I've just met up at the bottom here. So this is just another type of bead that you can make. You could use this as a pendant on its own, so you could just skewer across from there. Oh, sorry, I've gone off again. You can skewer from side to side there. You could do it at both the top and the bottom, so you can add some fringe to it. You can go top to bottom this way, so but it is more likely to spin if you do it that way. Or if you wanted to do some more bead embroidery around it, you can just put your holes in there just so that you've got somewhere to anchor the bead down to when you're doing your embroidery. So now I really am going to go off and pick everything before I decide on something else I want to do, and I'll be back just in a second. So everything's baked now, and just all it needs now is that it just needs glazing, simply because it's got the gold leaf on it on the edges, and that'll wear off over time. So these are the types of beads that I've got done so far, and remember, I've saved a little bit for me to be able to decorate other things, or say if I run out of the ball beads or something like that, I've still got some left so I can make extra. So these are just the Marguerite beads that I made. I'll probably use those as clasps, or maybe as a focal on a necklace. And then I've got the two sort of what I call focal beads. So I've got the rhinestone set with the was it the, I think it was the flower cane that I covered with that one, and then that's just with the scratch. So I've got a nice decorated lentil bead to use as a focal bead. Sorry, my mouth just doesn't want to work for me today. And then these ones are the tiny little Marguerite beads that I'll use for my bead embroidery. So those also need glazing because they've got the tiny little bits of gold leaf on them. I don't want it to wear off. Then I've got the two different size ball beads. So you can see, just depending on how much scrap clay you put in the middle will determine how big your beads are, and I've just skewered them straight through the middle, so nothing complicated about that. Then some of the petal cane I sliced up, I made into probably sort of like sequin beads. I've just skewered them, I've cut them thinner than the other ones, and I've just skewered it from front to back. So with them being skewered front to back, I can either use them as for fringe, or I could use them with the bead embroidery because they are very, very thin. So I can also use those within that. And then I did the thicker ones, you know, which is skewered from top to bottom, straight through the middle. And those ones I'll use for fringe most likely. And then just the flower beads I showed you, we skewered through those as well. Now these are obviously, they're a very bright orange colour, so I need to think of what colour I'd put with it within a piece. I wouldn't put all this orange together in one big piece. For me it would be a bit too garish. It won't be my sort of style of jewellery. I don't like it to all be one colour. I want it to have separate colours in with it. So just think a little outside the box and what you would actually use them with. You don't have to go with orange, you can go with any colour that you want to use. It's just a case of using a bullseye cane and rolling it a different way. So I just wanted to show you what sort of variations you can do on a basic flower cane or a petal cane, just using bullseyes. So it's only a subtle difference, there's not much to it, and the smaller you reduce it, you don't see as much detail. Obviously you see more on the petal cane because obviously it's not been reduced into the flower size, but it is a nice variation on another way of just using your bullseyes. So if you've got any questions, if you pop them in the comments, I'll be happy to answer them. And if you've liked the video, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, if you consider subscribing, that'd be appreciated too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!